All right, futures Forex crypto. Let's do a quick rundown. Aussie CAD trend is still bullish. Um, Held the weekly pivot line here at 97744. My opinion on the Australian dollar is kind of mixed, as we'll get through them now. Australian dollar, Swiss franc, still all strong, especially in terms of the weekly trend. Rate of change is still positive. Aussie yen, same thing. Aussie New Zealand having a little bit of a sell off, but again, the trend is still positive. Aussie dollar a lot closer to the weekly support line, but still a positive trend. I say mixed because before we get to Bitcoin, because the Australian dollars had a great run, and it's a risk on currency, and risk on currencies will do well when the market is doing well. But as we'll get to later, excuse me, I actually was hedging with the futures today. I mean, the market trend is still positive, but we've had a great run, and if you look at the Australian dollar, US dollar, this can continue, but we're talking about three straight up months in pretty much stair step fashion. So it wouldn't be crazy if we had a little bit of a pullback. So I'm watching the Australian dollar closely. I'm just keeping an eye on it. All the positions are still active, and I'm still long against other currencies, which we'll get to as well. But just a little bit more sensitive to price movements there for now. Bitcoin still in range support here. It's not been acting great, but rate of change actually just went negative on a monthly basis. I actually think that this is a good thing. Still long from the breakout here, but as long as we stay above this 28,000 level, I think it's positive. And I say it's a good thing that it's had some pullback because, anytime you get parabolic rises like this, doubled in less than 2 months, it's always unsustainable. I mean, if anyone saw GameStop today, they can see how how quickly things can turn when they start to go crazy. Um, Bitcoin had a little bit of that craziness and has kind of eaten up a lot of that, but it hasn't decelerated very quickly, right? It's still kind of choppy, right? Into the support bounce, into support bounce. Not a great day today, but again, still well within the range support. So it's still long, or if you're looking for trades, it's definitely still a long bias. You obviously have this kind of pennant right here. I wouldn't trade on this line, but I would use it as a near term frame of reference, right? If it's below there, you might want to just be patient, look for you know opportunities deeper in the range, and if we start to clear this level, then that could be a sign that we're turning higher. But for now, again, the trend is still bullish, but there's nothing really new there. CAD Swiss, nothing there. CAD yen, I'm still long. It's dancing around range highs here. We just have to see how things shake out in the next couple of days. Again, these sort of, crude oil, which we'll get to next, right? Still strong. So the Canadian dollar, I would think, would be a little bit stronger. Like, I'm shocked that it has not broken out of this range yet. I mean, it was printing these prices in June, but it's not breaking down. So still sticking with it for now, but underperformer. And then back to crude, strong, very strong still. So nothing is new there. E-mini S&Ps, as I said, I just hedged and I'm down on that hedge, but I don't mind because I have a much larger stock portfolio. From the actual futures perspective on a trend basis, the trend is still positive. Anything above 37.40 is definitely still positive, even if we back and fill in here over the coming days. Net, even despite the hard selling earlier in the day, it had a great close, and on a monthly basis, it's still a good month. So, despite all the volatility and all the chaos in other parts of the market, the broader market is still strong. Ethereum relatively stronger than Bitcoin, still holding above the support areas. Um, I mean, there's nothing new. I think this will continue unless something changes. So, and it's been encouraging that Ethereum is so strong. Not that Bitcoin and Ethereum will always trade exactly the same. In fact, the divergence has been quite strong this month as a whole. But at the end of the day, just like with stocks, if the bigger players in the space are performing, then the index is performing well. Then inherently there should be some fund flows in general. So Ethereum strength is more of an encouraging sign for Bitcoin as well. Euro Aussie still short, still bearish. I'm just watching this trend line as a gauge. Again, not trading off of it. Um, I think that the Australian dollar could be due for a pullback again against a lot of currencies is a little stretch. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some back and filling up here. But net as long as we stay, below this range low, and we don't close above. I think the weekly pivot is. Let me take a look and update that. So kind of have like a weekly pivot line right there. It's the high of the most recent lowest close. So just watching this here might take some profits if we get above here, but in the immediate term, the trend is still bearish. EuroCAD, same thing. Had a great play down to the range low, and it was a huge bounce back. But the trend is still bearish. This immediate term trend range here is resistance, and it has held so far. Got this downtrend line to just orient the path, that it's still down net over the past month. Waiting and watching. I think that if it's still going to be a risk on environment and the Canadian dollar is going to get stronger, we should see this roll over, break down through this line, and head back toward the range low. So still bearish, but there's a lot more strength here in the euro than in some of the other currencies. Euro Swiss, nothing. Euro pound, still bearish. Still reacting. Actually did not really do much at range lows here. So I'm happy about that. Not like the Canadian dollar. Euro did not get that strong. So rate of change is still negative. I'd still be looking for lower prices here for now. Euro yen. This is a recent new entry long again on this mini range reversal. Immediately underwater, bounce back. Now kind of break even. I'm still looking for 127.46. So, in general, the theme is that I'm cautious, but even from the currency perspective, all the positions that I have on are more risk on, as they would say, like currencies that should do well if the overall global equity market environment is doing well and inflation is supposed to be advancing and etc. So despite the cautiousness, the portfolio still leads that way. The same goes for Euro New Zealand, still short. This one is below the most recent range, and it looks like it's going to hold. We'll see, but going to continue that short position. Euro USD, still looking for dollar weakness. So I'm still looking for higher prices. I'm down a little bit on this right now, but I think as long as we stay above this $1.20 level here, we could potentially see the $1.23 again, but this is a new entry, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. But again, I still think the trend is positive in the immediate term. Pound Aussie sent that signal out. If you got stopped out, wait until it breaks this trend line here, and then I would re-enter. I'm still in it because it kind of played with the stop, but it didn't close there. So I'm still in it. If it does get above here, like let's say $1.78, I'm out, and then I'll have to reevaluate. But I still think that the trend is bearish. Same thing like with the Euro Aussie. And I'm just waiting for it to roll over, especially if Again, if all these risk currencies are going to continue to perform, then I expect it to be across the board. But we'll have to wait and see. Pound CAD, I don't have anything in there. Pound Swiss, I'm still positive on this. Still looking for this breakout. It's a huge range. If we can clear 122, I think that there'll be some real momentum to the upside, but we'll have to see. Pound yen strong, still bullish. Pound New Zealand sent that signal out as well. You just recently got short this. To stop here at $1.92, similar to the Australian dollar. I think it can roll down below the range low and come back down toward this 86 cents, $1.86 area, but I have to wait and see. Pound dollar, still positive, still above the range, holding well. It's been choppy, but drifting higher. So this also gives me some faith about the euro trade. Gold, still short. I still think that we're going to break below this mini range here. It's provided some resistance for now, and then hopefully back down toward the larger range lows. Still got a lot of space in here though, so I'm watching it. But this bar has been major resistance now for almost 2 weeks, so something's got to give. Either the buyers are going to really pick up and knock out all the sellers, including myself, or eventually they'll give up and it should start to roll over, because this day has been strong as far as resistance goes. But I am down on this position right now, so hopefully it can turn lower quickly. Copper also short, looking for a range reversal. In a weird way, happy that it's been doing nothing, because I'm still positive again on risk assets, and copper has been very correlated to risk assets, but it wasn't always. I mean, we can go back years and the market would be up, and our market was up in 2019, 2018, 2017, and copper was getting destroyed. So now this is more of a reflation play. So copper's done well, but there's no reason why copper can't pause while everything else continues to go. So I'm going to keep this short as long as it doesn't get over $3.74 here. I'm still looking for this range reversal back toward 350, but we'll see. It's kind of been boring to say the least. Chainlink still strong, still holding this breakout. Until something changes, got to expect higher prices here. Litecoin, a little bit more choppy, looks more like Bitcoin. But again, the net trend is still positive. So as long as we don't start breaking below $1.20, still playing this to the upside. Natural gas short was fantastic until today. Huge update for natural gas. Still short though. I still think it wants to touch these range lows. But I'm waiting and watching. I think if price does get all the way back up and not, basically if price comes up to range highs, I'll be out. But I'm hoping that worst case scenario, this gap area holds right here from this day around 270, 272. So still short, but not a great day today, unfortunately. Nikkei still long, nothing new, no position, but not going to fight that strength. NASDAQ, same thing, strong. An unbelievable day today in the NASDAQ. Obviously, the earnings will be enormous for the entire market, but in particular, I think the NASDAQ, especially, big tech, it's kind of make or break. So we'll see about Apple and whatnot as time passes. But again, I'm not fighting these trends, still positive. New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar, just added to this long here again. I think it wants to get above this range and hopefully test the highs. So far so good, but it's a new entry. New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc, same thing. Choppy out after this larger breakout, but still drifting higher. So same thing with the Australian dollar, positive on the risk-based currencies for now. New Zealand yen, same thing. This range retest got a good bounce, cleared that trend line. Let's see if that can continue. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Same theme. I don't have a position in it directly, but it's still strong. So nothing new. Palladium. We've been talking about this now. It's range bound. I'm not touching it until something changes. Platinum sold too early. Still positive. Reacted well to range highs here. This is the pivot here at 10.11. So there's a lot of space. So I haven't played it because I haven't found a way to enter long. Again, all of my trades will usually come from either straight breakouts or range reversals. So when it's in no man's land like this, it's difficult. I mean, you could play this breakout if you want and use like a tight stop, but it's been really choppy. So, and the rate of change has been slowing. Not that it's bearish, but I'm not encouraged about any momentum in the immediate term. So, not playing that yet. Russell strong, same thing as the other broad indexes. Silver, same thing as gold. Still looking for a play, the larger play down into the lower end of the range, and that big selling there has proved to be some source of resistance. Dollar CAD, I was stopped out of that long, unfortunately, and then of course it bounced back. Haven't found a way to re-enter in any capacity, so I'm just waiting and watching. But upset about that. Dollar Swiss, nothing. Dollar yen, still range bound. I'm not playing that yet. Although this reversal looks like it might hold, but no play in there yet. Dollar Mexican peso, worst short. One of the worst trades so far. Not happy about it. However, the overall trend is still very bearish. So I am looking for an opportunity to re-enter on the short side. And see if we can get lower prices. Ironically similar to the Australian dollar, and the New Zealand dollar, and the South African rand we'll get to next, right? Still short this, even though it's had a good 3 days these past 3 days. But until risk assets change or the dollar, trend overall changes, because I'm still short the dollar against the euro, for example. I'm still looking to play the dollar to the short side until that changes, and that includes the Mexican peso and the South African rand. Now, this position in the South African rand is still a positive position, although a lot of the gains have been eaten up these past 3 days, and I was stopped out of the U.S. dollar Mexican peso position, but I'm looking to re-enter. So until dollar trend changes, I'm still playing all these to the short side. Ripple, just hanging around here. This reversal trade is intact, but obviously whatever is going on with the SEC and whatnot has kind of put a dampen on the currency, to say the least. So it's not breaking down, but it's not breaking up either. So just have to wait and watch that. But there's nothing new there. Dow, same thing, strong. A little bit weaker today versus the others, but I mean the weekly trend is still positive, so there's nothing new here. I would be a little more sensitive to this area here at 30.50. Start closing below there, then on the immediate term basis, is actually be bearish, and that could be, more of a clue for the overall market. But because the Dow's been weaker, just because it gets below here doesn't mean it's a short in the S&P and the NASDAQ unless they've also broken trend. So I'm watching this closely, but again, still positive. Bonds. Similar to the South African Rand trade, it's been eating up a lot of the gains. I've got my eye on this one closely. The trend is still bearish, but I don't want to have this position turn into a loser. So I'm watching this. If we get a significant close near my entry price, I'm going to take what little profits are left and then wait, and then hopefully if it can roll back over down throughout the range, I'll sell it again. So the trend is definitely still bearish, but if it is going to reverse back into the range, I don't want to wait to see it because it could easily come up here and before it goes back lower. So even though the trend is bearish in the immediate term, I'm a little more cautious on this. And then last but not least is wheat. Reacted well to range highs. I'm very happy about that because it had an ugly 4 days, but great bounce back today. Let's see if it can hold these range highs here, and see if the breakout is still intact. And that's it. I'll just go back to E-mini S&Ps, but yeah, overall, from a market perspective, and from the same thing with the risk on currencies, that the market will determine the fund flows, which will determine how the dollar moves, and how the dollar moves will affect all of these currencies. And so this euro position is key. I think if the euro can advance against the dollar, then it bodes well for the dollar weakness across the board, which will be good for the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, etc. So just have to keep an eye on it. A lot of inflection point areas for some of the currencies, but from the overall market perspective, again, it's still positive. So and the same thing goes for even the Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ethereum. If risk is on and the overall market is buoyant, then and the trend and everything is above its trend, you still got to look for higher prices across the board. So let's see what tomorrow brings.